Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video for Honeybee Stamps. Today we are going to be concentrating on adding detail to our die cuts to help make them pop. So if you struggle with adding detail to them with a little bit of coloring, this is going to be the video for you. So I'm going to show you here the kind of before and after. The one on the left is before we add any coloring, and the one on the right is after we add literally simple 2 marker coloring. Nothing too crazy. We're just going to add a little bit to help bring those die cuts to life. I'm using the Lovely Layers mini spring florals. Those are kind of the star of the show. Everything is always linked below in the description. And then I just cut everything out of colored cardstock. I know that that's something that's really common. I like to cut mine out of white normally and then add, 3-4 color blends. But I know that isn't necessarily as common. So if you're somebody who normally cuts them out of colored cardstock and you're looking to just kind of step up your game a little bit, I think this video is going to be really helpful for you. So I intentionally chose my color scheme. You guys have heard me talk before about my class on color theory, and I apply color theory to every card that I make. And so when I was picking out my colors, I intentionally chose a double complement or a tetradic color scheme because it's going to work really nicely together. And all that means is that it's just 2 sets of complementary colors. So I have a pink and a yellow green and a orange and a blue. Now you may notice I have a light orange and a dark orange, and that's totally fine. They're still going to be complements of one another. And then I just ran it through. Now I did choose originally this Lovely Layers barn fence, I think is what it's called. And I thought I was going to use it, but it ended up, the flowers really filled the entirety of my design. And the fence just ended up adding kind of like something to make it a little bit busier. So I ended up not using that. But you could, change the design to maybe use some less flowers and still use the fence. But either way, we're mixing new products with old products. So the newer products is the sentiment and the florals, but the vintage picnic basket, the spring birds, like those are all older. Oh, and the herb garden, those are all older products. So don't forget to use what you have. That's important as well. So here I do like to kind of line up all of my die cuts, so I make sure that I have everything that I need before I get started. And then here is something I don't normally do. So I'm going to take a kind of like a left-hand turn from where I would normally go, and I'm actually going to glue these together before I color them. Normally I cut my die cuts out of white, and then I go in and, like I said, add all of that shading and the coloring. So I like to have them as separate entities because I like to lay the layers on top of each other, and then that way I know that all of my shadows are in all of my little nooks and crannies. Because I'm only doing a 2-color blend here, that's not really necessary. So I can be able to glue everything together. You may notice for my bird, I cut everything out of blue. I didn't cut anything else out of any other color except for his little beak. His little beak I cut out of the palish yellow orangish color. And then for everything else, I just kind of mixed it up. So I cut these flowers. Don't ask me what they're called, y'all. I am not a botanist, a florist, whatever. I'm not a person who works outside with the real flowers, just the paper flowers. That's all there is for me. And so I cut them out of a light green and a dark green, and then a light orange and a dark orange. And then that way I can kind of interchange the colors on each one of the flowers. So this way I don't have to cut a bunch of different flowers. I can just use these 2 to fill up my basket. And it's going to still give me a lot of color variety and make it so that it's very interesting to look at, but it's not a lot of extra work for me, because you all guys already know me and the die cuts, we are on the struggle bus together. These come together really easily. This is the first time that I have put together the mini spring florals, and I really did not have any issues at all. So that's always nice. Like, Honeybee does such a good job of putting in all of like the details and putting together the layering guides, which are always available on their website. And they're just really nice and easy to follow. The only thing that is a little bit different about this one is, well, I guess there's 2 things. The like the bell-ish kind of flowers with the smaller buds, they have they get adhered behind, which is a little bit different. And then what's the other thing that was different? Oh, the stem. It's got like a universal stem for all the straight flowers. So, because there's other ones that I didn't use. There's like a pansy, or yeah, it's a pansy, an iris. There's other ones I did not end up using. I just used a couple of them. I chose to use the, what is this? The basil and the thyme, I think. I think that's what it is, from the herb garden, because they were great fillers and they were correctly sized. So I just, again, cut them out of the same light green and dark green cardstock, layered them up, and then this way they'll be able to help fill up my basket without me really, again, having to do any extra work. I'm a lazy crafter, y'all. I mean, I know that you guys are so wonderful and supportive and kind and loving, and I adore you for it. And you're always like, no, there's so much work. You put in so much work. I only put in work where I enjoy it. If I don't enjoy that portion of it, like I don't want to do it, y'all. I am who I am. I don't want to do it. So here you can see putting these together, like I put the glue on the bottom of the bud. You could also put it behind the like the stem portion, and then you tuck them behind, and then that gives them, you know, the little bud look. I really like these, and I can envision using them even with my larger lovely layers as like filler flowers for like a bouquet. I think that this is a great find for me because I do use a lot of florals. And then so this one, you do, like I said, you want to add your layers first. So layer up those little buds. If there is a layer, there isn't on every single one, but you want to layer them up first and then add that little bit of glue on the bottom and then tuck them behind. Easy peasy. So yeah, you guys really, I totally appreciate you. I had put out a reel recently where I had said like YouTube's algorithm is just mean-spirited. And that is 100% true. I've done a lot of research recently because my views were just absolutely plummeting since January and I could not figure out why. It's not like I'm a new channel. I'm an established channel. And the views were just not there. And it turns out they've completely changed their algorithm, and that is why. So all the rest of us out here, just trying to make a living, So here, this is everything put together uncolored, just another little peek at that. And then we're going to kind of get into the coloring and how we can add just a little bit of shading. Here, what I'm doing is I'm just marking where my picnic basket is going to go. So that way, when I go in with my ink blending for my background, I'm not doing anything crazy here, guys. I'm just picking up a little bit of Salty Ocean, tapping it off on my glass mat, and then taking it to the background for the bottom. Normally I would use brush corduroy, I'm being real with you, but I don't know where it is. Like, things grow legs on your craft desk. I know I can't be alone in that. Like, I cannot be the only one who just loses things every single time I sit down at this desk. But anywho, so I used gathered twigs. It was fine. I just needed a little something, to make the background less boring, basically. All right, now let's get into the coloring. So I just chose two colors that match-ish my cardstock, and then I'm going to take my darker color. If there is a layer, so if there's a layer glued on top of another layer, I'm just going to add some shading to the left of it or the right of it, just right next to it. I'm not going to do anything wild, just one line. And then I'm going to add just a few flicks of color up from the bottom where the stem is attached, because we add shadows where two things meet. And so I'm going to do that on all of them, and then I'm going to go right over it with a lighter color. That lighter color should be fairly close to your cardstock color, and that's just going to help blend that lighter color in. Same thing with the greens. So where the stems are meeting the like where the leaf portion is meeting the actual stem, that's where my darkest attachment is going to be, and then I'm just going to flick some color out. And each time I'm going to leave one uncolored so that you can see the difference. For my little leaves here, I have two combinations. I have a light green combination and the same dark green combination that you just saw. And again, I'm going to add the darker color, just some flicks out from where it attaches to the stem, and then the lighter color right over it. So it does not have to be complicated. You don't have to add a ton. You don't have to cover up your entire colored cardstock. We're just adding a little bit of shading where we want it to be the darkest, and the difference is immense. It is so crazy how different they can look. For this one, this is my lighter orange, yellowish combination, and then the orange. For this one, in order to give it a little bit of movement, these flowers are very ruffled. So I'm just going to take my marker and I'm just going to do a little swipe in. So it looks like a little triangle. So just with the tip of the marker, I'm just swiping in, and then I'm filling in that center that's embossed. It might be kind of hard to see on the screen, but the die does emboss a little center. I'm just filling that in. And then again, I'm going right over that with my lightest color to blend it out. And then that's it. That's all I'm doing. So these little things that we can do you can also do this with pencils or your Olos or Ohuhus or whatever kind of marker you got. I would be willing to bet that if you had a color close enough to your cardstock, you could probably even do this with like water-based Crayola markers or Tombos, because we're just trying to create a little bit of a shadow. And I'm going to do the same thing for the yellow. Nothing's changed there. So that way we're giving them a little bit of shape and a little bit of movement. For the centers, I didn't adhere the centers earlier because I was going to be doing the coloring. So I just had to lay them there so that you could see. But for those, I just added a little bit of shading into the center. The largest one is not embossed. It just sits wherever you put it. The smaller one is embossed. That's why you see me kind of turning it to get it lined up. But then I just flip-flopped them. So if it was a light orange flower, I did the dark orange center. And if it was a dark orange flower, I did the light orange center. Just to add some interest. That's all. And then I'm going to go in and do the greens for this, the same color combinations. So if you are a person who has some markers, but not a lot, this is a great technique for you. If you are a person who is new to coloring and you really like the dimension that it gives, but you're not super comfortable, this is a great exercise. The more that you do it, the more that you practice, the better you're going to get at it. And more importantly, the more comfortable you are going to get at it. And so here, again, these look like two totally different flowers, but they're not. They're the same thing with the same colors. One just has a lot more dimension than the other. For this one here, I have one orange and one pink. So it's not an exact comparison, but I mean, it's close enough for government work. You know what I'm saying? And I'm doing the same thing that I did with the original pink flower. I'm adding shading next to any of the layers that are glued on top of each other, and then just a little bit up from the bottom, and then blending that out. Same thing for the leaves, shading where it's connecting to the stem, and then blending that out with the lightest color. For the vast majority of these, the lightest color you can just barely see after it's over. They're really just there, like I said, to blend it into the cardstock. So now let's talk about this bird. This bird looks crazy right now. He looks like he was 3D printed, okay? He has no dimension. He is flat, flat, flat. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to add shading around the, like behind his head, around the wing, on his belly, on his tail, and then blend those things out with the lightest color. Here's the thing a lot of people don't realize with alcohol markers. They are buildable. Same thing with colored pencil. So if you want to create more dimension and you only have these two colors, you can go back in with the same color and lay that down and get more of a shadow, more of a deeper color. Here's the other thing. I'm not going to get too far into this. This will be the only time that I do it, but you can also color your colored cardstock other colors. And so here, rather than cut the bird out of a different color, I'm just going to color his feet. And so I got out my little hex chart from Sandy Allnock, totally worth the investment, by the way. And then I looked at the oranges that I had, and because my feet were blue, I chose a orangish brown that was more red. So that way it didn't turn like that, like goose poop color. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you know what I'm saying. I didn't want them to be green. I didn't want them to be green. I have a funny story about that particular color. But anywho, so then here I did the same thing with the eye. The eye was cut out of that yellow, and I just colored it in, I think, with a dark brown. You could also use black. And then that way our bird is all done, and he went from being just like this flat, dull thing to just with two colors on his little body, giving him so much dimension. For our little picnic basket, you'll notice I didn't do any of the accoutrements. Like, I didn't do any of the accents because honestly, it was unnecessary. And I'm not doing any more die cutting than I have to. So here I am using the markers to give this some shape, but again, still only 2 colors. And I do want you to watch and pay attention after I'm done flicking this out. As the alcohol evaporates, see how much lighter it gets. So I encourage you to kind of play around with your colors to see what is actually going to match your cardstock. Another thing to mention, when I was doing the shading, you should take note that my lines were not straight. It does not have to be perfect. We're just trying to give the illusion of dimension. So don't hold yourself to an unachievable standard. Progress does not make perfect. Practice does not make perfect. It makes progress. We're white heat embossing the sentiment. I originally was going to go, this is from the Heart of the Family. I was originally going to go with the one that said, the world is brighter because, I think it's something like that. The world is brighter because of you. Let me read it. Hold on. The world is brighter because you're in it. That's what it says. And so I thought that would be really nice with like the big, like sunny flowers and all of that jazz. But it was too big. So I went with You Make a Difference Every Day. And then I'm going to put the world is brighter because you're in it on the inside. And then from here, in order to put everything together, I just started gluing them together right after I bumped it because, of course, why wouldn't I? So I'm just going to put the glue down and keep picking it up, gluing it, picking it up until I have all of my pieces parts as one section. And then that way I can do the coloring of the background. So let me tell my funny goose poop story. It's not actually goose poop. It's just about the color because color theory matters in all things. So my best friend, from the time that I was 15, we were in high school together. She decided that she wanted to dye her hair. Her hair is naturally dark brown, by the way. She wanted to dye her hair like fun colors. So she bleached it out. Okay. Which is fine. I mean, it's kind of damaging, but whatever, to each their own. So she bleached out her hair and she dyed it all of the many colors of the rainbow. And she started with pink. And from pink, she went to like a pinkish purple, to violet, to blue, to like a sea foam kind of green color, like teal. And then she decided she wanted to go back to her natural color. Well, guess what? Since she bleached it, she stripped out all of her natural warmth. So there's no red in her hair. No red, no gold. Okay? As somebody who had a mother who was a cosmetologist, and I dyed my own hair for years and years, you have to put what we call a filler back into your hair to put the red and gold back in. Or when you try to dye your hair back brown, it will be too cool. And it will look green. So, well, a greenish brown anyway. So when she dyed her hair from teal with no filler, no red, no gold, no nothing back in there, back to brown, her hair was literally the color of Goose. And we're still best friends and we still laugh about it to this day because it was so terrible. It was such a terrible color. So anyway, make sure you go to a hairdresser that you trust because this is why you teach them how to do color. So anywho, I put in the shadows underneath and I also filled in the color inside the basket. And if you are struggling with blending your colors out, you can always use a colorless blender. That's what I did on the bottom. And then I went in and I added some clear glitter. I added some white highlights, and then I added some rhinestones around the sentiment. And I thought that I was done, but it turned out that I was a little overzealous with how many highlights I put in, and it was starting to look a little wild, honestly. So if that happens to you, once your white gel pen is dry, you can go back in and hit it with a marker over top of it, and it'll knock back that white. The highlight will still be there, but it won't be quite as bold. So anyway, I hope that this inspires you guys to start adding some detail work into your die cuts. I do think it makes an immense difference. Again, it doesn't have to be alcohol markers. It can be colored pencils or, whatever coloring medium you have on hand. I hope that this was helpful to you. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.